What's going on, everybody? For those that have been waiting, thank you for your patience, everyone. We're just assembling everything so that there's no issues throughout the entire thing. Um, let's see here. Dojo, what's going on? Alex, Mateo, Wyatt, Eva, Eddie, TR33, Luke. Thank you guys so much for coming in right away. Really appreciate it. Oh, sound? They're saying sound issues. They're saying the mic volume's too low?
Yeah, it probably is.
Yep. One sec, guys. One sec. Hey, Gordon, what's going on? Yep, we're working on the sound, everyone. Gelatin, thanks. Yeah, Gordon, let us know. I'm just gonna keep talking just as a test, but let us know if you can hear anything or if the sound is still low.
That should be good now.
Should be good. Okay. Let's just see if oh, works perfect, perfect. Awesome, awesome. All right. So, um, can you jump Camden to the Crabwood hidden codes there? So, for those that are watching this live, I know there's only about 30, 40 people in here, but I figured for those that rewatch this later on and all that, we'll jump right into it. So, first off, I wanted to thank all you guys that were waiting ahead of time. Really do appreciate it. We're gonna go for about 2 hours, and then we have a Patreon member Zoom call after that. But the so I found something on my road trip back into Toronto. I found a website. Which is the tab with the two hidden codes in Crabwood there. Yeah. Now, you might think like, okay, this is just a website with text and things like that. But I wanted to go through the website with you guys because it pertains not just to crop circles, but to Eisenhower and the different meetings that he allegedly had. And I bring all this up because the crop circle messages seem to be from these Nordic extraterrestrials warning all the way back in 2004 the leaders of Earth, really our world governments, about the issues with the Greys. Now I'm going to bring this up in a Let's Get Banned episode, which will be out either tonight or tomorrow morning on Patreon, and then publicly a handful of days later. But the reason I want to say that is because I'm conflicted in the sense that we have a handful of, it seems like, I don't want to say oppressive individuals, but tribalistic individuals within the UFO community, whether it's at the highest level or at the lowest level, having to do with this, saying that, the people who say that the human looking aliens are more friendly than the Greys, that this is not right. Well, if we take a couple different perspectives in general, if we take a look, for example, before we get into this website, at the Travis Walton story, okay, he said that there were a handful of Greys that seemed to be quite, light and physically light. Their arms were flimsy, sort of jello toy-like kind of, and they seemed to, again, be, I guess you could say, servants or workers of what seemed to be more human-looking extraterrestrials, which he thought at the time were humans, right? So we cannot also discount the fact that we cannot just put all the Greys into one bucket, right? Hypothetically speaking. But with that being said, let's see here. Could you scroll down a little bit, Camden, if that's cool? Let me just check comments as well. If you could go down a little more, if that's all right. Thank you. Okay, so Real says, I think the Greys are... Okay, perfect, perfect. Now, here's the thing. If we scroll, sorry, this was a crop circle, quite famous. Everybody knows, right? But here's the thing. This website goes into a very organized and chronological dissection of what this means, right? So did the gray alien shown there? Could you just scroll up a little more? Perfect. Make Crabwood a little more down. I just want to read that text there. No, if you could scroll down a bit. There we go. did the gray alien shown there make Crabwood as some kind of generous offering to humans on Earth? Not likely. Close to the bottom of that crop picture, we can see a marker signature of the artist who really made it. Look at the large red arrow above. If we invert the entire image using Photoshop, we can see his marker signature even more clearly. Look at the large yellow arrow below. Now let's take a look. And 2 weeks earlier, this sort of snake serpentine like symbol, if you want to call it, started appearing. So let's scroll down and read a little more. This whole thing is interesting, guys, but I want to summarize it because I don't want to bore all of you. Let's see here. West Overton of July 28th, 2002 showed the same snake-like image in a complete serpent symbol from Aztec Mayan legend. Now, you see the images here describing this, right? Now, if we scroll down a little more, let's keep going down a little bit more. Okay. Now, looking more closely at that crop picture and comparing the many round symbols, well, we can identify its upper left-hand side a bright star Vega, and we can see here the star pattern shown at West Overton on July 28, 2002, told where he comes from. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read from my end, Camden. If you just want to scroll slowly along, it doesn't have to be at the same time or whatever, but there's a couple parts that I wanted to point out most significantly here. Okay, let's see. Now, okay, so part of this website, by the way, this is cropcircleconnector.com, guys, but part of this website, it says here, did President Eisenhower meet with two different groups of extraterrestrials in 1964? The next part is highly relevant to understanding Crabwood of 2002. So let's take a look. Now, we're going to go through the stuff we already know, but at the same time, we're also going to go through some new things too that even quite surprised me as I was reading this on the road trip. So on the night of February 20th, 1954, President Eisenhower was allegedly taken to Edwards Air Force Base for a secret meeting with human-like extraterrestrials of tall, blonde appearance and blue eyes. That astonishing event, if it occurred, so let's be fair, right, will experience its 50th anniversary in February of 2004. An earlier incident, the Washington UFO sightings, reached their 50th anniversary in July of 2002. First, those human-like extraterrestrials warned us against any possible alliance with the Greys, who had just flown aggressively over Washington, D.C. Then they fled to help us with our spiritual development. They required first that we dismantle our nuclear weapons, especially in the light of the horrific events of 1945. Now, they refused to provide any new military tech, saying that we were spiritually unable to handle even the technologies that we already possessed. Now, here's what's interesting. So if we take a look a little more further down, it says, and I quote, Sam told her about viewing a movie of the meeting between President Eisenhower and human-like extraterrestrials. They were willing to give us technologies to cure disease and to produce cheap, non-polluting energy, but we had to make concessions regarding atomic warfare. Eisenhower replied that his government was not ready for disarmament, while cheap energy would only disrupt the economy, end quote. Okay. Now, there's a lot of people that say that if we go back, Eisenhower would look at things differently, particularly as we look later in this live stream at some documents that we'll be analyzing more on Patreon, but we'll be looking at some documents that had Mike Pence and President Trump CC'd at the time, dealing with programmable matter and things like that. Now, what's equally as interesting, I'm going to cover this in the Let's Get Banned as well, but there's an interesting timeline that was proposed in general with regards to, the whole UFO situation and all that. And if we see, I'm going to read this out to you guys in the order that it seems that we can assemble the data to the best of our ability, right? So starting in 1947, in July, Department of Defense recovers a crashed disk. In 1947 of July again, the National Security Council was created. In that same month, the CIA was also created. In 1947, in September, a couple months later, the United States Air Force was created. And then if we fast forward to 1954, Eisenhower allegedly meets with aliens at Holloman Air Force Base. There was a treaty signed, however, the treaty was then signed. In 1958, Eisenhower threatens to invade Area 51 with National Guard for their info. Now, what's so interesting about all of this, folks, is that clearly there's a dissonance between 1954 and 1958, where Eisenhower lost control of everything that was happening. So before I go on, let me just read some comments here. Real says, I don't think we have problems with spiritual advancement. I think our bodies are holding us back. Real, my friend, I agree. And I think this is the thing that extraterrestrials were trying to say to Eisenhower. Like, listen, you have the ability, but there has been suppression over how many thousands of years of God knows what has occurred in the past to this planet, right? So let's see here. Oh, Aditi, thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. Yes, it's still going on. We basically just started. So between 1947 and 1954, obviously there was a clear, like there was a massive, I guess you could say, breach or gap in between all of this. So I'm going to read you some quotes from. Again, it depends on how you take these people, because we can also consider them to be controlled opposition. We have to understand that perspective of things as well. However, this is according to Exopolitics. Now, according to Mr. Dolan, a former CIA agent, went on to explain how in 1958, he and his boss, the CIA operative, were summoned by President Eisenhower to the Oval Office. The president, who was accompanied by Nixon, told the agent and his boss that he was trying to get information about efforts to learn about ET life and technology. Okay. The agent said that according to Eisenhower, MJ-12, Majestic 12, which at this point, folks, I don't want to say is it was completely legit with total certainty, but I mean, again, if the FBI, for example, many years ago had to basically attempt to quote unquote debunk the Majestic 12 rumors by literally taking a Sharpie and writing fake all over it. If you type in Majestic 12 documents on Google, you'll see it says bogus, I believe is the word. If that's their attempt at debunking, then I mean, so be it. But anyways, the agent said that according to Eisenhower, MJ-12 was supposed to find out, but they never sent reports to him. The CIA agent said he and his boss were called into the Oval Office. Now, according to this agent, again, we have to be vigilant that this is not some type of, double psyop trying to confuse the people, because again, what we just read from Exopolitics says that in 1954, Eisenhower met with human grays, whereas in that other website, the Crabwood crop circle website, Eisenhower allegedly met with human-like extraterrestrials. Now, maybe there was maybe these extraterrestrials are so advanced to the point where they can act, even if they don't agree with each other in terms of, the Greys and the Nordics and things like this, they may be able to literally sit together at the same table simply because of the fact that, again, they're so advanced, they understand there's no need for physical conflict. This is very similar to some of the alleged whistleblowers who have talked about on the moon, there being different bases on the backside, and there are different extraterrestrial bases. However, even though certain species don't get along, it is just an unwritten rule. They simply do not attack each other on the backside of the moon. It's just something that is simply not done. Again, when you're that advanced, it certainly wouldn't surprise me. But anyways, according to Mr. Eisenhower, by the way, I will get to reading some of the live comments shortly, guys. According to Mr. Eisenhower, we called the people in from MJ-12, from Area 51 and S4, but they told us that the government had no jurisdiction over what they were doing. So then Eisenhower says, I want you and your boss to fly out there. I want you to give them a personal message. I want you to tell them, whoever's in charge, I want you to tell them that they have this coming week to get into Washington and to report to me. And if they don't, I'm going to get the 1st Army from Colorado, and we're going to go over there and take the base over. I don't care what kind of classified material you got. We are going to rip this thing apart. Now, here's what's interesting. Because again, this was still the formation of the military-industrial complex. That whole apparatus was still being formed, again, under the direction of certain rogue humans or politicians that, were taking orders from Greys, or maybe some of these politicians or these officials were at some point maybe already extraterrestrial, who knows, right? But let me read you folks some of the order in which at least Mr. Dolan says occurred. But again, we got to be vigilant that this may also be a psyop as well, if you will. But, and I quote, President Eisenhower had the CIA agent's testimony yields important insights, among which include Eisenhower lost control of ET-related projects to a control group called MJ-12. This is precisely what Stephen Lovkin, who served in the White House Army Signal Corps, said motivated Eisenhower to give his departing military-industrial complex speech in January 1961. Again, makes perfect sense with regards to that speech. Even if the events of what we're evaluating here and analyzing are not entirely accurate, even though there may be, again, we have to always consider that there may be some very deep disinformation inserted in there, the consistency of the timelines overall is there, right? Now, the next thing is that the CIA was tasked with the study of ET life and tech and had access to Air Force files located at Fort Belvoir. This helps confirm leaked Majestic documents that President Kennedy first approached the CIA to get access to MJ-12 documents dealing with UFOs and extraterrestrial life. ET technology was being studied at a secret facility, S4, located near Area 51. Again, that corroborates Bob Lazar, you name it. Now, an extraterrestrial, which was a gray, was secretly being housed at the S4 facility. This helps confirm the testimony of witnesses such as Bill Uhouse that aliens were assisting engineers working on black projects attempting to reverse engineer alien propulsion technologies. Now, I bring all this up because if we jump back to the timeline, what we're going to find here is this. In 1961, Eisenhower gives the speech about the military industrial complex taking over the government. In 1962, Marilyn Monroe was killed on the threat of releasing UFO and alien secrets. For those that have been following this channel for about, I would say, just over a year now, you'll know that we did cover this last summer. But again, I may touch on it again just for the sake of, recapping it and I'd like to think my presentation skills have improved since then, so maybe I can give a little bit better of a visualization or a clarification, if you will. But anyways, from there, again, we know Bobby Kennedy was seen going into her home with a doctor, this and that. Her death was, an overdose on suicide pills. Apparently, she had been to Air Force bases where there were flying saucers, and Jack, JFK, had taken her there. Now, if we jump to 1963, now, this part I would add a little bit to. Kennedy was killed on the threat of shutting down the CIA, releasing UFO and alien secrets. Now, I agree with that. But I also do think, folks, at the same time that there was a lot of other things as well that at the time the Italian mafia wanted to take out JFK because he didn't follow through with what promises his father made on behalf of the family to the mob in order to help get JFK elected and things like this. So I would like to add to that. But again, there were a lot of people that wanted JFK dead. So 1963, basically, after Kennedy was killed, it very strongly argued that the government was overthrown by the military industrial complex. Now, if we take a look, for example, at some of the actual photographs of Jackie Kennedy, Mrs. Kennedy, right after her husband was killed, you can see a lot of CIA agents around, obviously in different times of the day and things like that, but you can see them, I'm not kidding, smiling at each other as if to say, we did it. That is not to say all of the CIA or intelligence community are in on it, but again, if we very vigilantly refer to Lou Elizondo saying, look, when he was asked about MJ-12, is it a government body, is it official, is it sanctioned, or is it rogue? He said maybe both. It seems like things when MJ-12 is brought up, he gets very scary. Now, again, we also have to understand too that he is from the intelligence community. We cannot always bank on that either, right? Now, if we go here, if we read the final, the second last step, from 1963 on, no president was ever again informed of the alien presence, crashed disks, technology, etc. All of government, which I disagree with, by the way, and I'll tell you why in a sec, but all of government, including Congress, the House, the presidency, is controlled by the NSA, the CIA, and the military-industrial complex, very simply by threat of being suicided, pedophile, blackmail, etc. Now, the person who tweeted this, it was a Twitter account, sort of like a Twitter thread by Reality Seeker. Just want to give him a quick shout out for doing this timeline. The final step they give as an example of the way in which this is demonstrated on the surface level is a very simple YouTube video with Rachel Maddow from MSNBC speaking to Senator Chuck Schumer. And they give the example right here. According to Senate Minority Leader Schumer, this is a direct quote, and I verified this as well. He said to Rachel Maddow, "You can take on the intelligence community. They have every which way till Sunday to get back at you." End quote. Now, this is ironic because Mr. Schumer was saying this to Rachel Maddow back in January 2017 when Trump was, having that back and forth with John Brennan, a former CIA director, things like that, right? So when we look at that, we can realize that, yes, were Mr. Schumer's words taken out of context? In theory, sure. But if he's making an overall generalization, honestly, I think it goes both ways. So again, when we take a look, for example, members will have a much better idea of this. I have to be very careful with what I say here, but if we take a look at Project Flickr, members will know this quite well, actually. We'll see, again, the, NASA, what was it also? The Pentagon, State Department, the things that were purchased on behalf of very high level officials. I would dare to argue that these officials were doing this on behalf of MJ-12 or others. Now, again, you might be saying, are they doing all this to conceal the 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 evidence of aliens. A big part of it, I would say, a big part of it. I'm sure there are other elements and other angles too, but yeah, I would say there's a big part of it as well. Camden, brother, if you wanted to jump over to some of the BlackVault files, and we'll scroll through and see what the audience likes. Um, and while you do that, in the meantime, what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to read some of the leaked transcripts and documents that had Mike Pence and Donald Trump CC'd on this whole, I guess you could say, UFO alien situation and all that. So let's take a look here. By the way, I'm actually, let me check the comments very quickly.
Mm.
Hey, Marius, good morning, brother. Let's see. Doug says old Lou is a spook for life. Legit bat. 100% don't trust Ellis. Exactly. We got it right. We have to be vigilant about all that. Drew Phillip. Wow. Oh, Drew says glitched when it said glitch for me when he said Project Flicker. Interesting. TSK Yo-Yo says the evil aliens took over. Wow. Yeah. No. It's interesting you say that because actually, sorry. I don't mean to jump around all the time, but let me see here. Oh, yeah. One thing I wanted to mention as well, too, about this meeting that Eisenhower had is according to Colonel Philip Corso, again, who was right in the thick of it. He claimed in his book that the leverage that the Greys had over Eisenhower during this sort of negotiation, forget the reading of the minds that Eisenhower and them didn't even think, probably didn't know about at the time and things like that. Forget about all that. Basic negotiation leverage essentially was that the Greys knew Eisenhower and his administration did not want disclosure. That was the big advantage. The Greys knew that, and Eisenhower and those guys knew that, according to Colonel Philip Corso, who again makes perfect sense. If we have superior technology and we go to a far inferior population on another planet, we go to the leaders of that populace and we say, hey, we want to abduct some of your population, just a very small amount relative to how many you have. They say no. Okay. And we know that they don't want us to be known to their people. We're just going to go nuts and fly everywhere and, show the world everything. Right. So again, that advantage is quite significant if you ask me. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up on the Crabwood situation here with regards to Crabwood of 2002 is specifically the message that was sent allegedly from the Nordics with regards to the gray alien crop circle that was put. Give me one quick second, folks, while I put this up, or while I look for the exact, for some reason the website refreshed and I lost the exact part of the page I was on. But anyways, both were meant to. Okay, so basically it was done in a ASC. Let's see here. Sorry about this, guys. It was using an 8-bit ASC 2 code. And that is, if we look that up, ASC II or 2, abbreviated from American Standard Code for Information Interchange, II, is a character encoding standard for electronic communication. ASC II codes represent text in computers, telecommunications equipment, and other devices. Most modern character encoding schemes are based on ASC II, although they support many additional characters. All right. Now, what's interesting about this is that if we take a look from that translation, let me find the exact quote because I want to ensure that now this was done in 2002, and the hidden codes in Crabwood in the Crabwood 2002 crop circle said that, and I quote, 50 years have passed since unfriendly gray aliens flew over Washington, D.C. in 1952. Again, before I go on, I just want to say as well, that might have been the gray aliens' way of saying, hey, if we want to expose ourselves, screw you, we're going to do it unless you make a deal with us, type of thing, because we know that you don't want disclosure, right? So let me take a look at the exact. Oh, I see. Something is, for some reason. One sec, guys.
Y'all are being hilarious in the chat today.
I haven't even checked yet. I'm just.
No, I blew my nose. I didn't mute it. I just turned my camera off, and now I'm doing fat lines like a drug lord.
Oh my gosh.
That's what they decided.
Oh, that's what
Yeah, they're like, oh, I heard that snort. I was going out, not sucking in.
Oh man,
Hold on,
that's funny.
I do have a
Yeah.
pontification for the chat because I don't know either.
Sure.
Maybe you know. I've always wondered this. Why do they call cocaine blow when you don't blow it? You like suck it in.
I You
Why
got
is
me,
it?
dude.
Yeah, why is it called blow?
Yeah.
Anyone in the chat know? I have no idea.
You got me, man. You got me.
You don't
I'll
blow it.
let's see here. Here we go. Okay, I just wanted to continue. The chat can keep going. I just wanted to continue with this. I didn't want to lose my train of thought, but
You blow your
okay,
nose
so
after. LOL.
a deal was struck that okay, blah blah blah. Okay, a deal was struck that in exchange for new tech, we would allow them to abduct a small number of people and harvest some livestock as long as they provided us with a list of people abducted. This was a very uneven deal. Why did Eisenhower ever agree to such terms? Colonel Philip Corso from Eisenhower's National Security Council said, and I quote, "We negotiated a kind of surrender with them, so long as we couldn't fight. They dictated the terms because they knew what we feared most was disclosure." End quote. By 1955, it became clear that the gray aliens had deceived Eisenhower. Now, let's see here. We got less than the technologies we had bargained for, while the number of people abducted exceeded what we had agreed to, and there was no list. Now, General Douglas MacArthur noted in October 1955, I'd like to quote him a little bit as well, too. He says, "We speak now in strange terms of harnessing cosmic energy and of conflict between a united human race and the sinister forces from another planet. The nations of our world will have to unite, for the next war will be an interplanetary one." End quote. Now, what's interesting about that is I wonder, with respect to Mr. MacArthur's quote, ultimately what has occurred in the sense that why these grays have not taken over in a sense of imperialistic domination in the way that we would think of it. Now, again, it's possible because they're so advanced, a form of an invasion would not serve their interests, right? So again, now, okay, perfect. I found the ASCII encrypt message that was warned about in that crop circle with the gray alien face. It says here, it translates to, and I quote, "Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. Believe there is good out there." And then it says, "We oppose deception." And then it says, finally, "Conduit closing." End quote. Now, I'm going to add a little bit of context to that if you folks like. So, the spiral disc from the Crabwood and its primary ASCII message warned us about the grays, once again using a cogent phrase, but beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Next, it talked about our current path to self-destruction. Much pain, but still time. Then it emphasized how spiritually advanced the feathered serpent and his friends are. Believe there is good out there. Finally, it reminded us of how the grays had deceived Eisenhower. We oppose deception. Okay, now the last phrase could also mean deception concerning crop pictures, because the whole Crabwood image was directed towards two nearby towers for radio or TV, right? So that's another thing as well. But again, here's the thing. How could some farmers overnight do something so precise? But that's up for debate as well, right? Finally, it suggested that they no longer had any need of small metallic UFOs, but could move directly through space-time using special tunnels or conduits. Okay. And then it says, again, reference conduit closing. Our scientists call those portals wormholes or stargates. All right. Now, Crabwood appeared on August 15th, 2002, which was almost precisely 50 years after those grays flew over Washington on July 26, 1952. No one made any connection between the two events until now. Again, this article was written, I believe, at the time, because they could not read its two hidden codes as shown there. Now, again, here's the thing about all of this. I wonder, this is back in 2002, I wonder if there may have been some type of coercion or some type of maneuverability with some of these human, I guess you could say, human looking extraterrestrials, if you will. And it seems as though that although our world governments tend to make an alignment with the grays more often than not, again, I don't want to just put them all in one bucket, but for the sake of conversation, assuming that was the case in general, we also hear of how during the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK's mind was messed with, sort of, in order to sort of calm him down. And a phone call made to a Russian general allegedly was never came from the White House, saying like, okay, let's de-escalate and things like this, right? So when I look at this, ultimately, what I think is that these human-looking extraterrestrials are intervening, and they are maybe far more advanced than the Greys. Because if we see here, assuming this translation of the message is correct based on the crop circle, conduit closing, meaning that, again, the whole concept of not needing metallurgy or any physical type of, object, at least within this respective dimension, to travel through space and time, could be another form of, again, interfacing with consciousness and space and time. With that being said, though, what makes me conflicted, and I'm going to read some of the comments soon. I apologize for going on this rant, but I know you guys seem to like my rant. So what gets me conflicted, again, is when we have people like Stephen Greer saying, again, there's a lot of great things he's done for the community, in my opinion, but a lot of things I question as well. When we have Mr. Greer saying, in his recent documentary, there's a lot of people in the UFO community saying, hey, the ones that look like humans, they're friendly. The ones that are Greys are not. I also think that Mr. Greer is being a little too black and white. I could be wrong, just my personal opinion, because, again, I do understand from the aspect of the military industrial complex, if they want to scare us in terms of, basically telling the masses, these are the bad ones and these are the good ones, right? Even though they shouldn't be telling us who to trust, we should be doing the research for ourselves, right? And the searching of knowledge and wisdom and all this for ourselves. But ultimately, I think that, again, the military industrial complex will in fact use the Project Mannequin apparatuses and technology of extremely advanced holograms, as referenced by Jacques Vallée in many of his books from many years ago, to abduct humans. And if it were to be a pre-planned, frightening or attempted to be frightening abduction, what would end up happening is they would show them the Greys, the scary, spooky looking down at you. Whereas the very positive abductions seem to be that of the ones that look human. So there's a lot of angles to consider here, right? And this is the thing about it all. There's a lot of angles to consider. And ultimately, if we take a step back and we look at the big picture, at least from my personal opinion, before I go into reading some comments, is that I have nothing to, let me be very clear, I have nothing to go off of in terms of direct evidence to ascertain the veracity of what I'm about to say. But I do think that Mr. Greer, I think he's been contacted by a certain faction of extraterrestrials, whether that's Greys, reptilians, hard to say. And I do believe, and I don't necessarily blame him. I don't want to say, he's being mind controlled or this or that. We don't know. We could be under a mind control right now, so I don't want to pass judgment. But is it possible that maybe his agenda has switched a little bit because he has been so overwhelmed by interactions with ETs that he believes to be real? And maybe they are, right? However, what ends up happening I'd like to think he's smarter than the fact that he may not realize he's pushing a certain faction's agenda. But again, I'd like to know what you guys think. Let's read through some of the comments. Gordon says, Greer's too black and white. I do think that humans out there could be worse than Greys. I think, honestly, Gordon, totally agree with you, brother. From my understanding, look, I am cool. It doesn't matter how they look. It's how they behave. Very simple for me, right? How they treat other species, really. Oh, Eva, sorry. Okay. We'll try and get subtitles going.
Yeah, so I have it on low latency, not normal latency, so it can't do closed captions. Next stream, I will make it not as low latency and it can do captions. I didn't realize that's something people could want.
Okay, cool. Appreciate that, Eva. So let's see here. Bradley says, I get a strong reptilian connection with Greer, as do I, Bradley. But again, I will say, admittedly, I have nothing to substantiate that. But if you look at some of the testimonies and hearings in public places that I don't think Congress, but a handful of other, institutional events that Greer has held, you can see some of the people sitting next to him, literally like, the eye slits and stuff like that. There's been pictures caught of that. Now, if we take a look, let's see here. Daniel Campa, Black Aliens, Dave. I'm not sure what you mean, Daniel, but
so he also said at Camden, I'm with you on that. The racist alien type thing, the weird narrative that we're like, why are we caring about the white aliens more than the other colors? So it's like it is strange. I agree with you. I'm glad you brought it up. I do think there's like some kind of angle narrative pushing with that.
Right.
It's another distraction. It's another divide on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Uriel says apparently we're the lowest scum of the universe who inhabits the lowest body form there is. Now, I'm going to get back to the comments on Greer in a second, guys, but Uriel, I agree with you, but I also disagree respectfully. And I say that because if we take a look, for example, at the way in which a very basic form of propaganda could be used, the ones that don't have the best intentions, the species that don't have our best intentions in mind, could be pushing this, saying, "Listen, you're on the bottom of the food chain. Don't even bother." Saying this to the military-industrial complex guys, saying this to the guys that really know things, in order to persuade their decisions to say, "Let's not go out into space. Screw it." Do I think we're near the bottom of the food chain? Honestly, yeah, but I don't think we're at the bottom. Personally, I don't, but I could be wrong. Vincent says, I'm not sold on Greer. I agree. TSK Yo-Yo says, I've seen an alien for real, but I don't think it was able to get in my head, so it left me alone. Again, TSK, see, this is also the debate as well, depending on the species, how advanced they are. Apparently, some are 5,000 to 7,000 years ahead of us. Others are tens of thousands of years ahead of us in terms of how we measure time and advancement, right? But anyways, Gordon says, oh, sorry, hold on one sec. Brent says he's in it for profit. I would agree.
Yeah,
that's the thing too, right? You look at his ego and things like that. Again, not trying to call the guy out on a live stream or anything, but I would say it if he was standing right in front of me, respectfully. But I would say
I honest to God, yeah, I would ask him like, so why $3,000 just to go out to the desert with you? Like, what do you think sets its value at
right.
that?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
all I would ask.
Gordon says he knows too much and is bamboozled in the headlights. Right, Gordon, very good point. I agree with you very extensively there, because I do think that however many years ago, if he was revealed in person by, the, like other witnesses have said too, where their camouflage disappears and, their face changes and stuff like that, you're going to go nuts. And a lot of people, I'd like to think not me, but who knows, you would immediately get your mind blown and claim just almost blind loyalty to that species or that being. You've seen something that's non-human. I mean, for crying out loud, right? So let's give the benefit of the doubt there. With that being said, though, to add to what you're saying, Gordon, I think over the years, he's had enough time to sit back and go, okay, wait a minute, unless he's being mind controlled. And I'm not trying to say it in a way of trying to make him the enemy. I'm just saying, we got to play both sides and devil's advocate, the whole thing. The next thing is, sorry, not the next thing. I keep reading this like it's a Kraken. Right. Yeah. Van der Zwan says Greer is on Gaia. That should tell us something. Well, again, I believe the majority of Gaia is owned by BlackRock, but this is the thing with Gaia, man. I appreciate you for bringing this up, Van der Zwan. The thing about Gaia is that I don't think that anything would be able to be put out in terms of content if it wasn't approved by, MJ12 or whatever group it is, right? Because you hop on YouTube and the ads are all over the place. You have a lot of respected people going on Gaia, but then a lot of controversial ones as well. So Gaia seems to be attempting to just be a hosting platform, if you will, that sort of encompasses all of that. But it's hard, guys. I don't want to give a definitive opinion yet on what I think, because I don't know myself yet, truthfully. If we take a look here, Lil Lou says Greer does have a massive ego. True. Yeah. Well, he definitely does. Some people have told me they've been to some of his seminars and he would snap if someone didn't hand him a microphone right away when he'd ask for it or whatever. But, everyone has their bad days. So again, let's play both sides. Arb says his Bob Ross approach seems a little suspicious. Right. I fully see what you're saying there, Arb. Bradley says, and if you have a massive ego, it can seriously affect the ability to critically think. Bradley, very good point. Again, the reptilians seem to be more dense in the sense of an energetic aspect. And again, that fuels the ego, the id, that fuels the negativity. And if we look at that on a human level, all we have to see is the different factions of elites that just feed off of the negativity of those below them on the hierarchical structure, right? Let's see here. Legit Bat says, oh, hey, Legit Bat podcast. What's going on, guys? They say when you have celebrities like Miley Cyrus going out to the desert with Greer, kind of makes you go, okay, that's a very good point, because we can argue the reptilian faction, let's just say the ones working with Greer and things like that, are sort of saying, okay, you know what? For those that are starting to believe more and more, come with us, but not in a good way, but in the sense of, we'll reveal to you this craft if you come out here with us and stuff like that. Again, we also have to consider during the CE5 protocols. I do not want to say all CE5 because I understand that there are many CE5 groups not associated with Mr. Greer, but I do want to say that many people have said that it feels like almost it's a pre-planned thing. Whether you focus on your meditation or not, a UFO will already show up. I wonder, is that an operation? Is that an apparatus, an agreement between a certain reptilian faction, gray faction, and humans saying, okay, there's going to be more and more leaks these days, so let's get ahead of ourselves, right? Again, you bring yourself down before everybody else does. You control the way that it happens. I wouldn't say necessarily they're bringing themselves down, but you know what I mean. Let's see here. Josh, no, Josh, not at all, sir. Josh says, you'll hate me for this comment, but I believe they're interdimensional beings and none of them are good. Josh, I respect your opinion fully. I see why you say that. Yeah, I can see why you say that fully. Vanderswan says, Francis Bacon is also Saint Germain. Some say also Enki. Yeah, see, the thing about Enki is I don't know who would, yeah, who would be Enki, because of all the disinformation and stuff. It'd be impossible to track that type of stuff down. Yeah, that's what in my opinion. Drew Phillips says, isn't the alien versus human war the grand illusion anyway? They want a real or government controlled invasion with cooperation with aliens to usher us into more control. Right. And again, if they understand space and time and gravity, I think that's one of the earliest things they may have discovered over time, because it seems to be one of the first things we as humans reverse engineered back in as early as the 50s, right? Some even say as early as the late 30s. Some even say as late as the 1800s. But the point here is that if they understand time in that regard, what's going to end up happening is they will just use that manipulative time control to coerce a way into their being full control for themselves without needing an imperialistic invasion, right? Why need it? And I do believe, however, another theory of mine is that again, I don't want to fall into that thing of all the human looking aliens are good. I don't believe that. But the ones that are that are trying to help us, even though the deal with the Greys was signed, I think they're sort of making their presence known to the Greys, saying, listen, don't push it too much or else we're going to step in. We don't care whether you want to call it the Venusians, you name it. That's what it seems like is the case more and more. Let's see here. Hold on. Gordon says, I've been told the most alien species in the universe is human. The rest make up the rest. Take from that what you will. In Gordon, it wouldn't, a lot of people would question, okay, they would go insane saying, okay, you're saying that we're one of the main composites of the different species. Well, if we are the result of an experiment of 22 different alien species, like many people have said, many ex-military vets, some passed away, some still alive, have said, hey, I don't rule it out. It could explain why, the intuition of the way in which we interact with certain people. The example I give of, going to a bookstore, you go to the spiritual section, many people have been known to see humans, what look to be humans, but then they look and the whole eyeball goes black completely, right? I don't know. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing per se, but again, let's see. Oli.
So wait, well, rewind. Yep. Sorry, my question
Sure.
to you about that, just for conversation's sake.
Sure.
So we've done that. We've had that video on here about like where they take off that film of the black eye covering of a gray alien, right?
Right.
The people that would allegedly be making their eyes black. So that's a different.
Correct.
Different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Technically, from what my researchers got, yeah, it's
so
a different thing.
That would be different. It's different species, that's different kinds of people doing different kinds of things to their eyes.
Right. And I don't, here's the thing as well. I'm going to get back to the comments in a second, guys. I really appreciate what you guys are bringing up here. It's a very good point and question, Camden. I don't want to say that just because it's black and dark and all that, if these Nordics can do this with their eyes and all that, that this is a bad thing per se. We also have to understand, though, that the Greys allegedly have those black eyelids over their eyes because of their sensitivity to light, extreme sensitivity to light, right? So there is a difference. But I wonder if the Nordics' ability to summon the black, what looks like black goo spreading all over their eyeball as it turns black in the transition could be a spiritual element. Maybe not a positive esoteric thing, but again, an esoteric element of it, right? Let's see here. Vanderswan says Gesara is the Saint Germain world. Maybe Yalda both is an AI. Yeah, I don't rule that out. I don't rule that out. I'd have to Vanderswan. If you want my personal opinion, I'd have to do some more research, but I wouldn't rule that out. Um, let's see here.
I think, sorry, Vincent N commented just a second ago. I think
Sure.
Schneider was legit only because of the way he also said that he just shot them when he got down into that underground like base. Like, I think that's one of the most human reactions to have. And if he was like making up a story, controlled opposition, he would talk about a different kind of interaction with them where either they attacked him and so he had to defend himself, or he like had a very positive experience with them. He would play a narrative one way or the other, not just I saw these things and I pulled out my gun and shot. Like, you know,
Right.
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I really do think he was telling his truth for sure.
I think okay, so yeah, to answer your question, Vincent, guys, I also want to say thank you for all the comments. I'm gonna go through as many as I possibly can. With regards to Phil Schneider, I was more skeptical of him even 3-4 months ago, truthfully. Not so much now, and I'll tell you why. His message is consistent with the people, the ex-military whistleblowers from the 2001 National Press Club, and I'll call myself out and say, yeah, that was done by Greer. And I'll be honest, I think he had more authenticity to himself back then than he does now. So again, we look at a lot of the
Remember
people
that
at the
wasn't that 20 years ago, literally?
2001, yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we look at a lot of the people, there's some names off the top of my head, but anyways, there were a few guys in there that were speaking just like Mr. Schneider, saying, I was a part of this rogue shadow government, if you want to call it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was almost sucked in and couldn't get out, and that's when I left. So again, this is something that I consider as well too. I'm not saying, going back to before to make it clear, not saying Greer's intentions are always bad, not at all. But again, looking at all the angles here and the timeline of things, right? I do believe he was legit, personally. But again, even if he wasn't, the message that Schneider has, that he was presenting when he did those speeches back in the mid to late 90s, it's consistent with what the whistleblowers that are still alive today say, in terms of we need to get back to, specifically in America, the American Constitution and the principles it stands for, to get rid of this shadow government, right? As simple as that. And which brings me to the next thing, which is that, again, you can't really break free will, but you can bend it. So as long as the world is always enveloped in tyranny all over geographically, we can't come together in the amount needed to overthrow this. Again, I don't want to say all grays, but whatever negative intentions some of these grays might have for us, right? Let's see. You Real says Black Eyes Baby is pure consciousness. Interesting. Some dude says, however, should the premise that grays are artificially made servants, then they could just be the intermediary form of who the agreement was truly made with, truly, less it is a faction of breakaway. Some dude, great point. Great point. We don't know if this was on behalf of someone else, an interdimensional being, or anything like this. Right now, I do want to reference one thing very quickly before I get back to reading some of the comments. James, I saw this on Reddit, guys. Please don't quote me specifically. I tried to find it like a couple hours ago. I spent 40 minutes. I couldn't find it anymore, but it's because James Fox has been doing so much PR stuff lately.
Wait, what can you find? Sorry.
It was a short video clip from a podcast James Fox was on, and he's been on so many. It was a small podcast. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
He said that he saw and was told in confidence some evidence with regards to the existence of extraterrestrials here on Earth. And he said it was told to him by a gentleman who spent loads of money on trying to find out who aliens were. And I think that's Robert Bigelow. I think it's Bigelow. I know people laugh at him and make fun of him, but there's also people that take him seriously as well, right? Anyways, Mr. Fox basically said, do not quote me specifically, folks, but he said something along the lines of, if what I was told was true, then my God, this is much bigger than we even think. I think this, honestly, guys, what I get from that is, I don't think that the human leaders are worried about mass panic anymore. Forget the mass agenda of the grays and all that. I think ultimately it's not going to be mass panic as much as it is going to be people questioning their own sanity. Excuse me. And I say that because if we were to presume that with what James Fox saw is true from allegedly, Mr. Bigelow, as he seemed to imply there. I don't know who else spent hundreds of millions to try to find this stuff out. Anyways, in Jacques Vallée's book, many of his books, the holograms, the advanced holograms. I think that's exactly what it is, guys. I think that we're I I'm starting to question. I'm personally conflicted of the whole how many of them are there? How many different species? How many as they call walk-ins that take over a body and that person doesn't even know it for a certain amount of time? How much of that is going on? It's very possible that it is literally right in front of our noses, right under our noses. Sorry. I think it's as simple as that. But let me get to some of the comments here. Let's see. Some dude says crash test dummies instead of actual persons from the race controlling them. Roswell as an example. Well, some dude, very good point. And I say that because if we look at the disks, the way that they sort of enter the Earth's atmosphere relative to the distance that we could see it from, whether it's military radar data or our visual eyes, right? I'm sure those disks could travel long distances, but I'm pretty sure those disks, most of them are being disseminated from a mothership near the sun. And we're actually going to be looking on a next early release episode for members and a Let's Get Banned later in the week at some footage of that, of Planet X, Nibiru, you name it, that we could argue is not even a planet. But anyways, Real says grays are like, damn, y'all making this complicated as possibly. Rebecca says, my cat gets an all black eye when he's in hunt mode. Right, Rebecca. So here's the thing. It's possible that form of doing a black eye in a public location, right, could be a form of just, hey, back away. I don't want any trouble, but back away, right? Let's see. Gordon says, that's right. Our sun's too bright. Another manifestation above our minds. Certain things our brains really can't cope with. Right. Van der Zwan asks, what role does the graphene oxide play in the assassination process? Van der Zwan, I'm going to have to get back to you on that. We can talk on email, but I'll be covering that in the next 1 or 2 Patreon episodes because I got to be careful publicly about that because of the things it's been tied into and stuff. So again, I got to be very careful there. TSK Yo-Yo says fallen angels. Right. Again, the perception of the whole, it's very possible that some of these fallen angels could have been certain factions of Nordics that decided to stay back on Earth many years ago. But again, the speculation of the way in which we could interpret past historical events is hard for me to say. Let's see here. Daniel says, dude, we're such base level humans. We're lucky we even know how to breathe. Yeah. But you know what's interesting too, Daniel? I think that the masses fell for the trust in the system of leadership and many, many years ago, right? And so that's why when you take a look, for example, at the way in which people are not, I know this sounds quite conspiratorial or preppy, if you want to call it, but there's a vast majority of people out there that are not prepared in terms of if there's a world catastrophe happens, do they have any storage food or things like that? The system is set up so that we're not ready, so that we can stay in fear, so that the mass consciousness could constantly be redirected, which is, again, why Australia, New Zealand, excuse me, why they're outputting so much more power than they're bringing in to begin with. Let's see. Lil Lou says, I know exactly what you're talking about, Camden. Awesome. Gordon says, I know losing his fingers and part of his stomach. Phil Schneider, right. Real says, oh, Enki, thanks for the heart. Little Miss Sunshine says, TSK says something smart, fallen angels. Very nice to see you here again, Little Miss Sunshine. I hope you're doing well. Real says, as far as human archetypes goes, we require food, sleep, maintenance, lots of upkeep in very fragile bodies, not suitable for many planetary environments. Well, very good point. And another thing too is that we can argue that the technology that these Nordics or Venusians or human looking ones, if you want to call it, have to do with the fact that they have just developed and advanced over so many years. Now, allegedly some of these Venusians have 2 hearts, 2 lungs, which could allow for them to live for much longer periods of time. But ultimately, I also think too that if we take a look at a story, which an alleged story, I want to be very careful about that because I don't have the document in front of me. It's in my notes back there, but it's a whole pile. Anyways, if we take a look at the alleged story of some of these Nordics being greeted by some U.S. military generals and politicians and officials and all that, apparently there was one very tall, about 13, 14-foot Nordic, much elderly alien woman, human looking, but again, sort of like that alien in Italy, the really tall one. She seemed quite weak and fragile because of her age. She was many hundreds of years old. I think it was something like 800 or 900 years old. And a U.S. general tried to assist her because, again, by human customs, it's polite to try to assist someone. Apparently, she gave him such a hit. To say like get away from me. She sent him flying, and he had to be taken into the ICU. This general and all that. I will pull up the document to reference later on. If you guys want to email me about those specifics, I will get it for you. Lauren Morris says, usual suspects, they stink of their deceit. Right, right. Bradley says it's possible they are never ruled that they are IVE. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean, brother. It's possible that they are. I've never ruled that out. Sorry, I appreciate that. Vincent says, Greer, I do not believe. Phil Case, on the other hand, is interesting. Right. So again, even if Mr. Schneider, pardon my English, bullshitted the whole story, at least the consistency is there with regards to the message of trying to get rid of the rogue government and all that stuff, right? Daniel says, angels can be freaky since they're perfect and don't question the Grand Master and do as they are commanded without failure. I can understand that. Yeah. Again, we're not even touching into the interdimensional side of things, right? Which I touched on with Mark in the previous public episode and members episode of My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. Keith asks, what do y'all think of Emery Smith? Honestly, here's the thing. The problem I have personally with Emery Smith was that I was doing research. I fully believe you should evaluate. This is just my way of researching and analyzing. I fully believe you should evaluate someone's statements, then do the research on those statements afterwards, right? After you've seen it, you've gotten the whole context of everything. What I did that one time with researching Mr. Smith was I had all my research notes in front of me for something else. I started looking into Mr. Smith coincidentally that same day, that same time in my studio here. And I noticed what he was saying was consistent with the research notes. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I had a biasness towards Mr. Smith from the beginning. I think that ultimately, though, Mr. Smith, even if he is telling the truth, no one's going to believe him. That's what I think personally. Lauren says everything is all tied together. Fully agree, Lauren. Yes.
Well, so Vince, Gordon later on says Emery is a fraud. I'll say it for you. So my question to that is so let's find out, like, where's his incentive to be a fraud? Is he making money off this? What is he gaining from lying about this?
Right. Like, right. Okay. Yeah, so let me I think the audience too will appreciate this as well, but I'm going to read the comments as well in a sec. I think because Mr. Smith, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, emits most of his content and knowledge, if you will, on Gaia's own majority by BlackRock, right? Yeah, that is I think, again, he may be on the payroll to just say those things because of the way that things have sort of funneled out, if you will. Now, in Mr. Greer's defense, Mr. Greer has been involved in this attempt of disclosure for over 20 years. He was probably called up by Gaia and said, do you want to come, do so-and-so and do some presentations. Mr. Smith, I do not mean to downplay him whatsoever, but if you look at, I know this isn't the accurate story, but if you look at it externally, he just kind of appeared on Gaia, and then that was how he got big and the whole thing. And then there's even who's the other gentleman with the blue avians? But anyways, let's see. Koyo says intergalactic interdimensional state, right? Vincent goes, Dave, do you know about asteroid Apophis? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Vincent. I will look into that though.
Yeah, I'll look it up in a sec. I agree with you, Gordon. Sure. I do. I was merely playing devil's advocate there, I guess is what you would call it, because I guess he gains that that notoriety and famous status, right, in at least the community that is counterculture. I mean, we've seen Corey Good, we've seen people do it before. So, like, yes.
Yeah. Now, see, with regards to Corey Good and the Blue Avians, because Daniel just said Corey Good with the Blue Avians, yeah. LOL. And you real goes, I believe you're referencing Agent Smith. Daniel, so to answer your question, Daniel, with regards to Corey Good, I think personally that whether or not he's telling Whether or not he's telling the truth is hard to say. But if we look, for example, at the Australian UFO archives that were recently declassified, right, we're going to see that a lot of these alleged, excuse me, Air Force fighters, whether it's from, the US or Australia, witnessed cat-faced beings inside of some of this craft. I'm of the personal opinion that we shouldn't rule anything out. Again, do I think Emery Smith is a disinformation agent? My opinion, yeah. I don't have much. I mean, just the way that he speaks and stuff is like it's directly from a CIA script.
That's what Gordon's basically saying too. He doesn't like these people's language skills, which I agree with. Yeah, it's
right.
They are. That's what I meant by Phil Schneider. It seems he didn't fit a textbook story and like explanation. He gave a very human, like, organic version of what happened to him. And
right.
Smith never sounds like that.
Right, exactly. Lauren says double speak. Exactly, Lauren. Right. Jay says Corey Good and David Wilcock duo. Mm-hmm. You know what I think about David Wilcock, guys? Honestly, whether or not he's a disinformation agent, my personal opinion, many of you may disagree with me. I think he's an alien, truthfully. But I do. Again, he could be an alien providing disinformation for a faction that does not want to see the human masses excel and ascend. So doesn't necessarily mean that he's good, right? Let's see here. One sec. Oh, Vincent goes, I'd love to hear your take on transhumanism. Sure, Vincent. Generally, I think if we go into more context-based situations, I think that transhumanism in general, I think it depends the direction one wants to go in terms of a society and how it could be controlled and all that. From an esoteric sense, I think controlled transhumanism is okay, but I say that very carefully. I say that very, very carefully. Let's see. Lauren says, I'm sure some are being used without having any clue of it. Yeah, exactly. Cosmic Chameleon goes, he's 100% an alien with regards to, I believe, David Wilcock. Jeremy Solo, Corey Good and David Wilcock. Sorry, was it? Yeah, David Wilcock, I think, is an alien. Truthfully, I think he's an alien. Good or bad is not for me to say in terms of the message he's pushing. When these guys speak of technology, the consistency is there, regardless of which tribe, faction, group, whatever you want to call it. Like whether it's, Stephen Greer's side of things, Lou Elizondo, Corey Wilcock, the technology descriptions are there. I mean, that doesn't seem to be disputed per se, right? Let's see. Lauren says Grimes is the living example of transhumanism. Makes sense. Vanderswan says graphene oxide is transhumanism. Interesting. Yes. And again, I got to be careful about that.
There's reasons that is substantiated, I guess, is what our best thing to say is.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. When Jeremy asked, what do you think about Corey Good and David? Corey Good, again, all these guys with Gaia, it's hard to say. But if you're someone like David Icke, or if you're someone, honestly, even like Greer, who have been doing this seemingly years before Gaia came along, there's a little more to trust there, right? Let's see here. I'm going to get through all these comments, guys. Hold on. Gordon says Phil was 100-mile-an-other. Emery so slow, like he's pulling stuff out. Wilcox said he was Edgar Casey's reincarnation. I kid you not. Huh. Cosmic Chameleon. Yeah. Cosmic Chameleon says we're all aliens, bruh. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I shouldn't even say extraterrestrials, because who are we to say at this point, right?
Well, someone earlier had said, what if they're coming from beyond the ice wall? I mean, that's something I've played with a lot. Right. I mean, it's just as plausible of a explanation.
Right. Well, if you look at Bigelow in the 60 Minutes interview, the interviewer says, so are you looking to the stars to find? He starts laughing like crazy, Bigelow. It's almost like he couldn't hold it in. He goes like, it's right in front of us. And then she goes, can you give examples? He goes, no, I can't. So I understand why people question Mr. Bigelow. I do. Let's see. Daniel, Bradley says agree about Wilcock. Right. Gordon says, maybe I'm wrong, guys. If so, I apologize. No, Gordon, that's the point of this, to debate, have an open conversation. Daniel Campa says, you guys play GTA, you know all the radios and TV channels you can cycle through. That's WTF level. We're living based plain delusion of selection, in brackets, century of self. Ah, very good point, Daniel. Very, very good point there.
That is what GTA like exemplifies. Yes, absolutely.
Right,
It's a really interesting like social experiment.
right. Um, Little Miss Sunshine. Oh, no problem at all. Let's see here. Little Lou says Corey Good. I never gotten good vibes from. Right, that's another thing too. Um, Little Miss Sunshine gives me greater perspectives. Oh, no problem at all. I appreciate that you even come and hang out with us. Um, Bradley Coe says we all know what that graphite is, folks. I got to I can't really add to what Bradley said here just because it's a public live stream, but
I mean,
um,
it's a strong bet. If you already like found our channel and are watching us, then you probably have at least heard of some negative aspects.
right, yeah, yeah. Oh, this is okay. Oh, SCP, what's going on? I'll get to you in a second. It's an interesting question. Lauren says I'm surprised more aren't aware of CERN's bullcrap. Yeah, very good point. Um, uh, let's see. No, Gordon. No, no, no. I understand totally. You real says, guess that's maybe where all the plastic surgery and different trends of the like is where the push to transhumanism is. Wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you see more and more people outside of the entertainment industry getting, surgery done to, look youthful and things like that. Who's to say that something is not put in there to begin with, right? Not in the operating room so much as it is in the production factory of the products being inserted into that person, right? Let's see here. Um, SCP-4357 says, I recently heard a theory that humans are generally afraid of dolls and mannequins due to evolution. We became afraid of something like a predator, so that's why we see kids freak out when they see them. SCP-4357, I appreciate that sort of, I guess you could say, question, or just throwing that out there for everyone to debate, because there's a lot of things that I think we have natural instinctual fears of that have either been implanted into our ancestral DNA over many, many thousands of years, or it's something that comes from the alien DNA that was seeded into the creation of us. Meaning, again, we could argue that the very low, I guess, low life, we'll call them low life depraved elites of the world are that sort of ability for even any human to feed off of negative energy would potentially come from this sort of reptilian intuition. But again, I don't want to throw everything into one bucket in terms of the grays, the reptilians, all bad, all good. I don't want to do that, right? Let's see here. Daniel Campa, but bruh, I'm a legal alien. I get it. Let's see. Jeremy Solo says David Wilcock thinks he's the reincarnation of Edgar Casey because he looks kind of like him. I can understand that. I can understand this.
Do you look like people that you get reincarnated as? Like, do you look the same, or are you just like, I don't know? I'm asking. Is that a thing? You look like the person when you get reincarnated? Like I didn't think
I
that was
don't
real.
I don't know. I think those in the comments might actually know better than me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess I was asking them. Yeah.
Right. Little Miss Sunshine says, my grandmother was great friends with Hugh Lynn Casey, Edgar's younger brother. Whoa, that's cool. TSK Yo-Yo asks, what's up with people's eyes like lizard people? If you see those slits and when you're in public and you could clearly see it looks like an orchestrated, controlled movement of the eye pupil changing literal shape, you're probably looking at an alien, brother. Whether you're in line at the at the gas station or whatever, you're probably looking at an alien. Seriously, at least, or maybe a hybrid of some type, right? But again, we can argue that we're hybrids. Let's see. Lauren says, I can tell that Bigelow is being for real, though. I think Bigelow, he's got so much money, he doesn't care. I think now it's just a matter of not getting himself killed. Again, assuming it's legitimate. Right. I agree, Lauren. Yeah. Let's see here. Freeman says, try to find the behold a pale horse guys. Do much information. Thank you. I'll look into that, Freeman. Thank you. Let's see. You Real says, apparently evolution is a lie, but are created by different alien races, such as the example of how many different species of insects there are, with there being like over 50,000 different species. Right, exactly. So we can argue that it's sort of like the species in which we see now. We say, oh, it's like a large version of a praying mantis or, a humanoid reptile. Who's to say that we shouldn't invert that or flip that? You see what I'm saying? And absolutely. Gordon SP, right. TSK Yo-Yo, Alex Jones. Bradley, this is interesting, says, you would be surprised, TSK Yo-Yo, how many of them are watching CNN and see how many have issues around the eyes. What interesting. Let's see. Lauren says it makes them look more unrealistic than plastic surgery. It's freaky. So that plastic surgery, it's freaky, right? Yeah, to the point where it's like, is this even looking good? Right, yeah. Toon says in the show Stranger Things, it talks about upside down world and that parallel lines never meet. Isaac Newton, he said time is absolute and one of many ways to enter to our world is present in a time portal. Is this correct? Well, it's interesting, Toons, you bring that up because you know what? Screw it. I'm going to bring up a note that I had initially set for Let's Get Banned, but I might as well read it now. So let's see here. Basically, Toons, what Toons asked everyone is, again, I want to read it one last time. In the show The Stranger Things, it talks about the upside down world and that parallel lines never meet. Isaac Newton, he said time is absolute and one of many ways to enter our world is a present time portal. Okay, could this be the reason that we artificially conceive and therefore perceive ourselves moving forward through time? Could it be because our consciousness acts as or is an energy receiver and transmitter, like many former Russian generals have said, again, tuning the energy contour of the brain? And so we're pulling time to us, hence the all points of time are equal theory. So we can also argue too that if we're pulling time to us, the way in which UFOs do in terms of, you know, I guess you could say diverging or transcending space and time, sort of like rolling a bowling ball on a blanket, right? If your bed and the blanket is space and time and you're the craft, could it be possible that we ourselves with our own bodies could do this without the need of craft, right? That's the other thing. And I don't have the answer. I'm asking this in general to add to Toons' question. Gordon, let's see here. Oh, Gordon, brother, if you want to debate with us, let's have you. If you're interested in even just having your voice on, please come on the next live stream. By the way, guys, for those in the audience, anyone wants to come on the live stream, please shoot us an email or anything, and we'll bring you guys on. Let's see. Toon says, and fungi, aka shrooms, links both worlds. Interesting. Hold on. Lauren says, I think DNA has more to do with spirit than just tangibility. That's interesting, Lauren. Thank you for that. I'm going to get to the comments shortly, guys.
Well, that could be one of the reasons that they said
reading some of the documents here that had President Trump and Mike Pence CC'd on it. And the reason I say that is because I want to read from one specific document with regards to programmable matter that's referenced here. And let's see. Okay. Furthering the development. Now, this is a sort of, this is Claytronics, cloaking, quantum.
Wait, send it to me. I'll pull it
detect track. Yeah, I'm gonna send it over to Camden, and we'll put it on here. I think I already did. I send it?
Maybe. I'm going to your chat right now.
Oh, why didn't it send?
No, yeah, it didn't send.
It just said it went through now.
Yeah. Okay. It did.
Okay. There's a document there with Oh, Gordon. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Eva says they are clones. These look alike, I think. Right, makes sense. Jeremy says, I don't think reincarnation has anything to do with looks. Very fair point. If you could let me know, Camden,
yeah,
brother.
I'd never really thought that it needed to have anything to do with looks. That's one of the reasons I asked, because that's not something I knew about. So I wanted to see what they had to say.
Bradley says, did you notice that in the movie Encounters of the Third Kind, they had Lockheed Martin in it and Piggly Wiggly? Huh. I didn't know that. No, that's really cool. Again, drop feeding right there. Daniel says, according to a CIA document, past, present, and future exist. Right. That document was declassified, I think, like 2001, to the point where, again, people were so condensed with respects to the dimension that we're living in. They didn't even think of this at the time. Let me know when it's up on the screen, brother.
It is right now.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, sorry. I'll start reading here.
Can you see it? Can you see it?
Oh, I could. Sorry, I had it paused on my end. Okay. So we'll see here. I'm not sure if that's the exact one, but again, the words are small.
I got 4 photos. So
right. Okay. So I'll go through them like this. All right. This is interesting. So we'll start from the top of the very first page. White House Office, Executive Office of the President, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. To Scott Pace, Executive Secretary of the National Space Council. Notice how that's very seldom brought up in the mainstream media, the National Space Council, right?
Is that
So
a public office we can look up? Like, can we see that he is that Scott Pace?
if you like to, I mean, we can take a look if you like. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, that's
gonna
what I'm looking at. I mean,
sure.
why not look at things?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Executive Secretary of the National Space Council.
Wow.
That's what
Wow,
he
wow, wow.
is. And how long has he been that?
That's
Since
crazy.
2018.
That is crazy. Well, and holy, well, yeah, see, okay. That would make sense with regards to the that would go hand in hand almost with Space Force, that whole thing
I mean,
there,
he
right?
definitely was that position at that time, January 30th, 2019. So, yeah.
Right. So let's see here. January 30th, 2019, 3:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. To Scott Pace, and CC'd Trump and Mike Pence. And I quote, due to leaks of DIRDs, which stands for Defense Intelligence Research Documents from DIA OSAP, James T. Lasatsky, attention building 600, blah, 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 and exposure associated with ATIP, in brackets, Lou Elizondo, in brackets, critical international defense capabilities have been exposed in relation to new science applications and groundbreaking, disruptive, emerging technologies, which must be developed first and most robustly and optimally with the United States of America and allies, in brackets, Canada, and potentially all of Five Eyes, or as necessary, all of NATO. Failure at this point, at this pivotal moment, could have stupefying implications for the US and her allies in all major geopolitical arenas, including but not limited to politics, finance, national security, yada, yada, yada. Anyways, let's take a look at, I'm going to read from the next page here. Again, you don't have to put it up, Candom, just because again, maybe it might be too small, but I'm going to go through sort
Yeah,
of
I
the
can
bullet
zoom
points
in.
of it.
See?
Let's see here. We introduced the Autonomous Quantum Computational Analysis Program, or AUCAP, AQCAP, wherein Autonomous Quantum Entanglement Communications, AQEC, and Autonomous Quantum Computing are researched in the context of utilizing organic molecules and automation technology. Okay, we can argue programmable matter right there. Quantum tomography of negative energy states in the vacuum. IoT networks and post-quantum cybersecurity of legacy infrastructures. Okay. And then it says here, power for non-local PSI systems exploiting quirks of physics and consciousness to achieve offensive and defensive capabilities to address the vulnerabilities discovered by ATIP, as shown in figure example slide 9 of the classified congressional briefing. This is interesting because, again, what's now being admitted, which was rumored to be for so long, is the element of consciousness, right? That whole aspect of things. Now, what's interesting here is, if we take a look, furthering the development of programmable matter, literally word for word, programmable matter, and Claytronics with LPD/MELD implementations of self-reconfigurable modular robots. Claytronics is also called programmable matter or Claytronics. Okay, before I go on, you guys see that right there? That is insane because, again, modular robots.
That's kind of a cool word though, Claytronics, because it's like
Right,
clay. They can
right,
reassemble themselves. However, that's actually a pretty fucking cool word. I hate that
right. No,
it's real, but
exactly, exactly. Let's see here. The next one is manufacturing feasibility of negative gradient index optics and negative permittivity, metamaterials for invisibility cloaking. And cloaking is also called invisibility cloaking. This is consistent with something I just saw, guys, on Reddit right before we started the stream, where I forgot which subreddit it was posted in. The full 45-minute home video of Bob Lazar after he left S4, talking about how the science of this works. I'm going to watch it before I go to sleep tonight. It's really interesting because he talks about how when the craft raise up and they induce a certain amount of gravitational power and force and strength, they turn invisible no matter what. And from regardless of what angle, you can't see it. Right now, the final point here is detection and high resolution tracking of vehicles at hypersonic velocities, determination of signature reduction, lift, propulsion, and inertial shielding of unknown TOIs. Again, what's interesting too, we see from the some of the points here
TOI
of
stands
the
for what?
TOI target of interest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
I could be
No, no,
wrong, but
that's what it means.
right, okay. Now, if we jump on over to, let's see what we're looking at there. Now, if we jump to the other page, sorry.
I'm on this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Let's read from some of the comments. Hold on. Alex K says this looks like a sci-fi script. That's it. Yeah, it does. And again, this whole thing of this document saying, oh, because of Lou Elizondo, we're going to do this whole report and we're going to CC the president and vice president. No, this was part of a plan. Maybe not planned at the time of the release, but it was there in the works. Let's see. You real cell says, oh, talking about Joe Biden. Brabbit asks, what was your take on Lord Stephen Christ inverted Earth interview?
That was, I think they mean when I interviewed Riel last Sunday. We
Right.
talked about him, and I mean, if you take math as like altruistically works in all of the universe, he's got the math. The math works out.
Right.
So at
Yeah.
the very least, you have to lend some thought to the plausibility.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to, let's see here. So many great questions. Beauty and Brains, thank you so much. Jeremy Solo says, I'm still iffy on Greer, but I did just watch his latest documentary and I felt it was mostly pretty good. Jeremy, right. I agree very much in a lot of ways with a lot of what was said in that documentary. I watched it a few times over to make sure or hopefully I got everything. Right. That's the thing. The thing I disagreed with was when Greer said, oh, the humans and they're the only good ones and the great. And then he goes, that whole thing, BS. They're all, and he tried to imply they're all good, but he stopped short of just saying it. Right. Now, his whole thing is, look, if they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it by now. Right. But what if they're so advanced that a form of asymmetrical warfare is just even better than imperialistic domination? Right. Let's see here.
My favorite analogy is,
right.
I'm pretty sure you've heard me say it before. If like you're at the zoo and you're watching a bunch of monkeys like stand around a water well and they put a bucket on their head and dive down, you're gonna look at the monkeys and be like, LOL. Stupid monkeys.
And not exactly. Yeah. And not just that, but John Brennan, interestingly enough, talked about how in a PBS documentary, don't ask me why I was watching it. He said what they do in the CIA very simply is they do something called OPE, operational preparation of the environment. They scout out the landscape. They scout out the cyber aspects, the electronic aspects. Why the heck would assuming the same chronological form of thinking from different extraterrestrials hiding amongst us, who's to say they're not thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Van der Zwaan has a great question. What is the difference between graphene oxide and programmable matter?
It's kind of like, what's the difference between a casserole and some of the stuff you put in the casserole?
Right. And was this Van der Zwaan? No disrespect, Van Dier, in terms of with regards to in that sense. The thing is that if this technology is advanced as it is, then what we're looking at is the ability to merge these types of things. So we could argue, depending on the situation, that one in the same, we can argue there's a difference. It's very, very hard to say. I don't want to say one in the same in terms of it's all just the same thing. It's, this and that. I'm sure there are a lot of benefits that could be used with these types of things, but not even close to what we're looking at right now, right? Van der Zwaan also says quantum dots are also self-assembling. Are they not? I don't know right off the top of my head, Vander. So, sir, I don't want to say. If I don't know, I don't want to say. Camden, do you know by chance?
Rewind. Sorry, I was reading comments. What?
Sorry. Quantum dots are also self-assembling.
The quantum dots, if I know what you're talking about, I think they're entirely theoretical still at this point. So, like, yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I can see what you
like.
Yeah.
There's not a practical, like, real use or functionality to them being done, as far as I know. I mean, I guess they could be like, they have that technology and they're just telling us it's hypothetical to drop feed. But yes.
Right. Igby says, God damn, that's kind of spooky. I've always heard of this stuff, but to hear it confirmed a few times starting to wig me out. Well, Igby, I want to be very clear. We're not preaching this as if it's fact. I know that we're looking at these allegedly leaked documents and things like that, so I understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, this is another thing that I say this carefully and lightly, can relate with the intelligence community or the rogue community with the whole thing of people who get up in the morning and are so used to their day, 9 to 5 jobs, paying their mortgage, and their whole world has already collapsed around them, and they don't even know it. Sometimes it's better if they just don't know, right? Again, that doesn't mean I don't think that disclosure should be prevented. I think that the people deserve to know. But let's see. Little Miss Sunshine says graphene oxide and programmable matter are one and the same, in my opinion. Again, yeah, it could be a substrate, could be a potential, dissemination of that. Let's see. Someone earlier in the chat said 2 wings of the same bird. That's a great example of
it's
just
my favorite analogy.
Right.
Gordon actually said he loved that bird. I disagree. I'm not a right wing or a left wing person. I think the whole bird needs to die.
You know what? And it seemed like JFK tried to do that. And again, look what happened to him, right? So that bird is pretty strong. Real asks, hold on. Lauren says, I don't like politics, but I will say Putin has some kind of difference about him. I will get back to you, Lauren, on Putin. I think a lot of you know my take on him. I'm not saying he's a good guy nor a bad guy. He's an interesting character. But Real says, do you think the Greys ever got their lost soldiers back? Oh no, I here's the thing about that. I don't know how far the Greys, apparently if the Greys are as dense in this in this dimension as we are, or even more so, apparently their biggest issue is, again, trying to be able to have a soul, and that's one of the things they're trying to obtain and never worked. So again, it's hard to say. There's some alleged images, where of craft coming above the water, seems to be entrap a smaller craft. Allegedly, those were the human-looking extraterrestrials working with the U.S. government, under guiding them, advising them, and preventing those Greys from doing that. But again, that is speculation. Let's see. Barbette Bonanza says destroying something that is broken isn't bad. Yeah, this is not one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. No. It's broke. It's broken every way.
It's not even broke. It's fixed. You know what I mean? Like, it's set. You know what I'm saying? It's not broke.
Yeah.
It's fixed.
Right. It's been, fixed for, just not for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Igby says legitimately does. Bradley says they have a planned fake disclosure for sure. I can see that. Jack says programmable matter is not a bad thing. The way it's being used is the problem. Otherwise, it can be incredibly useful. Right. Again, Jack, this is the thing. I'm not saying the tech being developed is bad. And I don't think you're trying to say that's what we were saying either, but it's the intention it's being used for. So presuming what we were looking at earlier on the crop circle website about Eisenhower and all that, about how these aliens the human looking ones, the Nordics, said, basically, you can't even handle the tech you have right now. Right. So I can understand that. Let's see. Brabbit asks, hey, Camden, what's your take on Lord Stephen's Christ's interview?
Yeah, no, I'd answer. I had talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Someone else had also asked about like leaving Afghanistan because of Sumerians or giants or those kinds of things. I did a members episode, maybe I think 2 weeks ago, on the giant of Kandahar. That's really, really solid. There's substantiable things to say about it. When they had soldiers in the Middle East, they were training them to look up in the caves for things, like as if the Taliban is hanging from the ceilings like bats or something. But no, I mean, if you're fighting a 14-foot tall giant thing, well, then you have to aim up.
Makes sense. And that would be a way they would subtly insert it into the training. Right. Roger says the ETs do not want disclosure, only to elites. I agree, Roger. I would say, yeah. And even I would say that even not all of the elites know. Solo Rico says we're in a test. I couldn't agree more. Again, it depends how we view that test and perceive it. But yes, SCP says, Dave, you should watch Men in Black closely. There's a lot of interesting things, specifically when the dog said, you humans can't understand that size is nothing. Then he said the universe is the size of the grape. That's a very good point. And again, I know people laugh when they use, the Men in Black reference and all that, but very quickly, if we look at President Medvedev, when he said back in 2012, when he became president from prime minister, when he took over from Putin for a little bit, he goes, every time a new person in Russia comes into power, they into the top power of the country, they are given the nuclear codes, of course, along with a list of secret bases that aliens have all across the country, hidden underground, you name it. And Reuters, the American media company, of course, they sort of skewed and it changed up his words a little bit, because Mr. Medvedev said, if you want to know more about this, all you have to do is watch the movie Men in Black, if I'm not mistaken. And it was not told as a joke when if you read the Russian outlets, but according to Reuters and only Reuters, the way they reported it to Europe and the West
they changed the word documentary to the word movie, so that you thought about Will Smith.
Right. And that whole thing. And then they said Mr. Medvedev seemingly joked. Again, seemingly based on who? The Reuters reporter that was there? You see, right? So
they don't even know what comedy is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Freeman says silent that's a good, silent weapons for quiet wars. Right. Yep. Lauren says this warfare destroys minds at new all-time highs. Lauren, I don't mean to get into this whole like rabbit hole sort of thing of sadness, but my gosh, the things I've seen in terms of people's mental health issues these days, it is bad. It is very absolutely demoralization. Yes. Bradley says, and if they feed off our energy, then we are just a resource to them and they don't want to destroy us all. That's the thing. Exactly. If there's no masses, then what's the point? If you're just the elites at the top and no one else is left, by definition, you're not the elites. You're just the only ones left. So who or what are you going to control then? Right. So again, which is why these aliens could disseminate these operations down through the intelligence communities, which will in turn work for humans because all they want is profit at the top. At least that we would think. Right. So create the problem, create the solution, create the chaos, try to create again. So, and they feed off the negative energy and fear in the process. Yeah. Solo says, where did the superior gods and goddesses go? I feel like they eventually switched to other dimensions. It's possible in terms of if they ascended. It's the thing with history, Solo, respectfully, not towards you, sir or ma'am, just in general, I personally have a tough time with regards to history of this extraterrestrial alleged, I don't want to say infiltration, but engagement, if you want to call it, because it's so hard to say. It's so hard to say. Now, I would speculate on history more, on historical events more, if we could have access to the real documents, right? And then again, we got to question, what are the real ones at that point? The Vatican ones, or all of it, right? So let's see. Eva says, was Mellon the one that died in the summer? If so, he asked his son to get the truth out. No, I think Evan's alive, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, Mellon, excuse me. Christopher Mellon, I think he's alive. Little Miss Sunshine says, Bradley, they call our energy loosh. Yeah, that's, I mean, that word in and of itself is not, yeah. Gordon says, Daniel says, yes, definitely is. Gordon says, I'm going to say this only because I mean it. I've watched videos of small aliens, and looking at Chinese babies without a doubt looks similar. There's no slur intended or insult. Totally respect that, Gordon. Again, if you're trying to make an affiliation with something that we can all understand, no problem at all. In the sense, I know we all know you've been around quite often, just like you guys know me. If anything is said that is not meant in a or comes across the wrong way, totally understand. I think everyone here gets it. Well, if we were to look into that, we can argue that, again, China's secretly doing these secret underground experiments, low-level augmentative crossbreeding experimentation in correspondence with the USA, right? So again, to say that this is not possible, I don't rule anything out. I really don't. And I also don't think that, again, we look at Europe, we look at sort of Europe, Latin America, different types of hybrids or different types of beings are being found. And that's what's also equally as interesting too. Oh, this is good. Okay, this is a good one. Daniel says, if we incline to it barely, it has been done long ago. I agree. Gordon asks, is there a possibility these are actually a future us? I think in some cases, yes. I think there may be a way. Again, if space and time, even with a craft, forget with your own body, but even with a craft, if space and time could be folded and bent within the vicinity of the craft that you're in, I don't see why you couldn't go back or forward in time. truthfully. I mean, you may need an extra type of device or apparatus of technology, but I don't see that why that wouldn't be the case, which again could be why some of these beings may in fact be, in some cases, us from the future, but God knows how long in the future, right? Um, let's see here. Little Miss Sunshine says we are batteries, right? Yeah, satellites, batteries, receivers, transmitters, you name it. Um, Bradley says some beings have been cut off from the source of creation by choice, and they can only survive like a parasite feeding off other sources of energy. Right. And my question to that, Bradley, brother, would be why they've made that choice. Why, even historically, maybe their ancestors made, as we perceive it, made that choice to do so. Freeman asks, like in Matrix? Right. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Let's see here. Vanderswan says, I have filmed quantum dots clouds many times. They look like LSD clouds. They fly in webs in our skies. They are not spider webs, but full of quantum dots. Yep, I could see that. I could totally see that. Yep, absolutely. Lauren says, time is of no concern to them, especially. Exactly. If we could reverse engineer anti-gravity in the 50s, assuming that's the case, yeah, 100%. That's one of the easiest things, if you ask me. And also the association between LSD and the quantum dot clouds and stuff, totally see that being legit, because the association of the way in which our minds access consciousness is clearly right next to the way in which there seems to be some sort of blanket that's taken aback in our minds when psychedelics are consumed appropriately, I guess, right?
So I don't know if you've been looking at the screen, but you see these like 3 whale rock thing I've been looking at.
Yep.
Someone mentioned it in comments. So obviously the speculation here is it looks spaceshipy, right? Someone was
Right.
saying that. Okay. What I notice immediately about the 3, I've done like 2, not mainstream media websites, and then National Geographic. All of them say exactly this phrase: is a 75 million year old rock formation jutting. Like it never says it. It always gives an exact date of 75 million year old rock. It was formed 75 million years ago. So wait. So how did it just all of a sudden make itself like that 75 million years ago? Wouldn't that be like massive and massive amounts of erosion over time?
If I'm not mistaken, Phil Schneider, at one of his presentations, one of the pieces of metallurgy he brought to present said that this is predated to about 75 million years old, and the way in which it was carved and constructed at the atomic level was just something that they couldn't do, which is consistent with Mr. Vallet's whole thing of, the metallurgy at the atomic level was reconstructed so freaking well that, again, it's like the example I gave at the public episode the other day, splitting the atom. We had no idea what we were doing.
Brain blast. So they make these things on such an atomic, like, defined level that they're perfect, they're singular, right? So what about a kind of conversion of matter and energy into something else? Let's say 75 million years ago, right here, they were trying to make some cigar craft out of the mountain, and they just didn't change its dimensional state all the way. Say they messed up, say they got attacked and had to stop midway, like whatever you want to make up the reason. But 75 million years ago, they were making these craft, and then they got distracted in the middle of it because they were changing its matter states into a defined atomic structure of a ship that they can use. Ooh, that's a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Wild says those are ships for sure, stuck in the rocks. I'm going back up to read the comments, guys. SCP says in Men in Black, when Will Smith is getting recruited, they say that this was a joke, and then real aliens contacted us, and etc. And when he entered the room, you can see JFK in the background, so it's drop feed. Again, very good point. You can see that right in front of everyone's faces, and that's what Bigelow could have also meant about it being right under our noses. Wild says no one knows where those rocks are coming from. Let's see. Antonio says, oh, sorry. This was in the comments that you guys are chatting. Just trying to scroll up, guys, to read some more comments here. Jack Dark says those rock formations look like crashed ships. Pretty cool. Yep. Uh, Lauren says some may get all doom and gloom speaking of these things, but I don't. Right. Yeah, I understand. Oh, Freeman, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a great vibe and it's a great time. Yeah, when we do these things. Um, one sec. By the way, if anybody wants us to look up anything while I'm reading the comments, just bring it up in the comments and Camden will do it.
Oh yeah, no, that's my favorite thing. I've been doing it the whole time. I don't know if you've been even looking at the screen all the time when you're reading stuff to like say out, but like I just been like looking up things that people send in chat.
Sweet, awesome. Let's see here. Lauren says, I think things can vitrify quicker than we think. And oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. And also, I think when they started creating things that didn't occur naturally, those things on the periodic table synthetic, that this had a major cause and effect. Interesting. Very interesting. I see what you're saying. Solo says they cover the entrance to Inner Earth. Honestly, I don't want to say it's just like this, but I would say that in terms of the concept, it's like the way we see, like how in the Marvel movies, Wakanda's covered up and then they just fly straight. But again, their craft has to have a certain energetic magnetism to it to be able to even access it. If not, the hologram is so sophisticated. If it's just a plane, you'll probably hit a tree. And I know it sounds funny, but Keith says, good analogy, Camden. Absolutely.
So
let's see.
Someone Wild said Google Portlock, Alaska. This right here, this entire town left en masse immediately 1949. Like, see, like it's just an abandoned town. Leaving their homes, a nearby chromium mine. Okay, is like why would they leave a chromium mine? Isn't that like major profitable? That's a at least mildly rare earth mineral.
Right.
I don't know if they found something in the mine. Is that our speculation here, Wild? By weird creatures. Yeah, I guess maybe something came out of the mine.
Also, IBI UFOs. Hello from Australia. How's it going, my friend? Not sure if you've been in any of these live streams before, but welcome. In Portlock, yeah, Alaska, whole town almost got killed. Let's see. Uriel asks. Keith says Howard Hughes secret space program. I guess to search up.
Yeah, I am.
Let's see. Uriel says thoughts about Alex Crowley and how he was apparently suicided with him and his whole family working on the gray state. I have to be careful about that because of the public live stream.
LOL.
Excuse me, but I'm working on the gray state, something for the gray state. Koyo says look up the synopsis for the book series, The World of Tears. And then Solo says the Bible literally connects perfectly to
scientific
terms and allegorical terms.
I saw that one. Where to go? Okay, yeah. No, okay, my favorite example to make to people, if you like know biblical stories. When Moses was leading them through the desert for what is it, 40 years or something, or is it 40 days? No, Noah's 40 days. Yeah, they were in the desert like 40 years or some bullshit. So during the day, they were guided by a plume of smoke, the Bible says, and during the night, they were guided by a ball of fire in the sky. Those sound a lot like the light crafts that we talk about and the cloud craft things we talk about. That's like a UFO story right there in the Bible.
You know what you should do, sorry, Camden, on DuckDuckGo? Instead of SSP, I'd say Secret Space Program.
Just the whole word?
Yeah, okay. For the sake of the let's see. Lauren says that was one big ritual, I'm sure. Jer asks, are you guys going to keep this live recorded or put it on Patreon? Jer, the lives we always leave public at the end. We will never like say, hey, it's only for the members after.
We are on a time restraint. We're only doing 2 hours today because we're going to go to a Patreon member Zoom call. But
right.
I mean, it'll still be on YouTube, the whole thing. And I made the live chat replay too, so you can see what people commented.
Sweet. Oscar, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Arb says, I was tripping out on the prophets of Fatima. Yeah. Daniel asks, anyone heard of the Ajuj Majuj people who live underground and when the cycle is ending will rise to the top and add to the chaos? Could it be the reptilians? Could it be a faction of the Greys? Could it be even maybe a different faction of species? Oh, I know. Yes, I got you here with what they were saying about Pegasus and all that with Hughes. Let's see here. Secret Space Network, Keith says. Jack asks, have you guys seen the video of the gray humanoid in the ocean captured on camera? In the ocean, humanoid like the mermaid, or the like a just a humanoid like bipedal, got the legs and everything? Jack, I'm not sure. And Arb asks, have you guys heard the vision of Fatima? Of course, of course.
Yeah, no, I'm about to look it up.
Oh, Jer, nice. Yeah, I got it. I didn't go for a walk today. I try to do a nice big walk every day, either early in the morning or at night. Michael asks, gray humanoid. Gray humanoid. Interesting. Okay.
I mean, I'll look it
Jack,
up.
think a gray. You think it's a gray mermaid? Okay.
Gray.
Yeah. Also, guys, I just wanted to let everybody know that we in the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're gonna have to end the stream. It's been an amazing 2 hours. We're still gonna go strong for the next 10, 15 minutes. It's just we have a Patreon member Zoom call shortly after that. So let's see. If you guys want to continue more intimate conversations, again, don't mean to be a salesman, but please feel free to check out the Patreon, if you're interested. The next thing, oh my gosh, I keep thinking it's Kraken. SCP says, I'm in the computer domain, so everything that is in that is really weird. And suppose the computer we created is so weird because everything that was done before was a more simple version. Oh, okay. This could have to do with the whole thing of what the Nordics say generally about, again, allegedly the Nordics and Venusians saying technology is good, but only use it for what you need it, and not like, oh, just leave it lying around. Like they're saying, like store it away, lock it away, rely on nature of the planet, respect the planet, that whole thing there. Yeah, no, SCP, you're 100% right. I fully agree. Real says maybe this channel is only up still just to see how much we really know. Oh, you're saying we're CIA.
No, that's actually exactly the only reason that I do this at all. I want to see how much we all really know.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you guys right now. I really don't care because it's, I feel like I'm talking to you guys directly. I know many of you, and Camden does too. I've thought that myself too. Not that this show or this channel is anything extravagant in terms of its size and popularity, but I've always thought, like, I wonder why it's being kept up. I've used, even in public episodes, a lot of key words. Like, for example, I got the Operation Timber Sycamore episode. I thought that would have been taken down, honestly, because of how, we could cite so many things. I didn't want to take the risk again because we already have a strike on our channel, right? So
I mean, I've thought about it too.
Yeah, I mean,
because you can look. I said it in the Zoom call the other week. You can look these people up. You can just start naming names.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Ryan Dawson has gotten kicked off of a lot of like everything, like 3 times, and it's just he was never afraid to name names all the way in like 2008 about like 9/11 and stuff. So
right.
like, I don't know why we haven't gotten kicked off. I'm getting close to just about to start to name names, just to see.
Jerry, I just want to answer quickly before he leaves, in case he goes, I never signed up for the calls on Patreon. I've never been able to join because of work. But if we join, do we have to talk? No, you can just, there's some people on the call. Yeah. They don't even have their camera on. Some of them are at work. They just put their earphones in. They listen to the ones that do talk.
It's like a live podcast too.
Yeah, it's a much more intimate version of the live stream, which is why, we can get questions in and converse and go down deep rabbit holes for sometimes hours at a time. Bradley goes, I honestly think they're. Oh, sorry. No. Oh, okay. Bradley goes, I honestly think they're watching this to see how many people know. It wouldn't surprise me. I did an episode last week on the members having to do with NanoQuell and stuff like that, and I was even afraid to put it in the public episode. The words NanoQuell, because I was afraid it was going to get censored. And I'm sitting here going,
insane. That's 2013.
And Edward Snowden tweeted in 2013.
I know, I got to be careful. That wasn't a let's start. That was a let's add things that we've already been doing.
Barbette. asks Camden, how can I email you concerning Gateway? Barbette,
I'll put
Gen Z.
the oh yeah, I'll
Sure.
put it in the chat and pin it.
Gen Z podcast at gmail.com. It's both Camden and my email, and we share it and we read everything you guys send. Um,
We're working on really tightening down a schedule of like when we like call it maybe Monday, we like reply to everyone's emails, like that kind of thing, guys.
right.
So
Yeah.
like we're working on more of a structured schedule for all of it, but we read them.
Lauren says, I can't afford Patreon, so I appreciate y'all doing this. And Howard says, same as Lauren. Well, guys, listen again. Being truthful with all of you, the way that we feel to operate is we don't put ads on the channel because we don't believe in putting stuff out that, for a couple of reasons. We don't want to put stuff out that we wouldn't want to watch ourselves. We know how much of a pain in the ass ads can be, and they are. At the same time, too, becoming a YouTube or Google partner doing ads, they have more control
That's
over your
when they
content.
really that might be why one reason, because we don't monetize YouTube. That
Right.
really
So
could be.
we believe in basically the crowdfunding idea, right? Patreon. You vote with your wallets if you think we're doing a good job. If you think we're doing a good job, you sign up, you stay signed up. I understand life happens. Sometimes there's certain months where you can't stay signed up, and I respect that totally. Because just like with life too, look at me. I had a very unexpected road trip come up. I understand things happen, and so we're not. That's why we do so much of the open free content, because we just want to pay our bills and put a little bit aside, and that's about it. We're not, again, not charging. Don't mean I'm not going to say it. Not charging big amounts for things, but anyways.
No, I mean, title of the video is camera captured mermaid. Okay, all right, thanks, Jack.
Oh, Lauren says don't want to endorse something you don't agree with. That too. And again, I want to say it one last time. If any of you folks see ads on our channel, it's because YouTube is doing it. It's not us, and we're not making any money from it. It's apparently come to a point where YouTube can just, even in the terms and conditions, they've now changed it. They can just go out of their way and do it anyways for them to make even more money. So again, if that's not an idea, going back to our conversation before of how corporations tend.
Like the brain decided to see what you say that you saw. I want to hear about it. Ooh, okay. Looks a little CGI-ish at first watch, but let's see. That's not a real clip. I didn't have the sound on.
Oh, Lauren says, "Oh, I'm deep in the Bible Belt, good old boy place, LMAO."
Yeah, it is. I live in
Wild Man,
Egypt.
Oh, never mind. Lauren says, "A lot of cognitive dissidence down here." Wildman says, "Western Prairie Province here." Nice, nice. Jer says, talking of UFOs, there's a lot of activity in Jersey, more specifically by the Lakehurst base near Jackson. Me and my brother saw one zooming by at 1 a.m., and you also see one by the farmlands. Interesting. Howard of House L says, no offense. No, Howard, that's the point. The whole point of this is to debate whether we're looking at footage, you name it. He goes, the mermaid footage looks almost exactly like the aquatic character from Hellboy. Jay says, fake as F.
Yeah, I mean, at first watch, that's what I said too, but I'd have to literally frame it by frame, because I don't know the credibility of that video to begin with. I don't know, like.
Oh, sorry, Marius, brother, take care. We'll talk very soon. Hope to see you on a Zoom call, sir.
Yeah.
Say hi to the family as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lauren, no, I'm in Georgia. Yeah, I'm in bumfuck Georgia, like south of Atlanta. I guess you would actually, being from Georgia, she would know. Lauren would.
Oh man, Lauren, you want to talk about cognitive dissidence? Oh, yeah. You should see where I just came from. Oof. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so you know what, guys? We're gonna have to call it. We got in about 45 minutes or so. We have a Zoom call with the members. Again, we're gonna kind of have to save my
last
voice.
Question anyone had? Let me scroll to the bottom.
Sure.
Yeah, no. Okay, Mario said he'll be in a Zoom call. That's gonna be good. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm between Columbus and Atlanta, this Lauren person. So you probably know where that is if you're in Georgia, but it's just bumfuck.
Right.
You don't need to come in Alaska. I want to move to I want the wilderness. Like, I hate cities.
Oh, speaking of which, I don't mean to sort of be a person to entice for the Patreon, but on the Zoom call tonight, there's gonna be some footage I'm gonna send you, Camden. We're gonna look at.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty damn interesting. Like, I mean, we're talking about uh satellite footage of Nibiru, things like that. Doesn't mean it's real, but we're gonna be
Oh,
looking
okay.
at it.
No, no. I think I saw that. It was the gray composite type of.
Yep, yep. It's the
Okay.
camera
Yeah. No.
that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Project
Cool.
Stereo that went all the way to yep, yep.
All right.
Um, all
So
right, gentlemen. Oh,
we'll
sorry.
catch y'all later.
Yep.
We'll do another one of these real soon. I really do have fun. It seems like y'all do too. It's great.
Oh, thank you, Barlow. All right. So I think I said just gentlemen. I meant ladies and gentlemen.
Mhm.
Thank you everyone for coming in so much. And we'll catch all of you guys. We'll catch the members later, and we'll catch you guys for another stream definitely this week. Just we don't know when.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's gonna be fun. Oh, you used to live in Columbus? God, what a hellhole. That's the closest town to me. That's where I go if I go to a town. It's God, I hate that place. Anyways, all
Guys,
right.
thank you for the compliments on the stream today.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
we gotta end it. All right.
All right, it ended.